Hello, I'm Becher Townshend and welcome to the FontCast, Tasmania's top source of political news and analysis. Well, over the years at FontCast, we've consistently broken the big stories that the mainstream media hasn't. Far too many to mention. Put simply, we've boldly gone where others have feared to tread.
Oh, goodness.
That's Star Trek reference.
Yes. Anyhow, luckily we haven't been sued.
Not yet.
Anyhow,
That's good.
For example, Madeline, who could forget Madeline Ogilvy's decision to join the crossbench and ABC's Leon Compton's unprofessional response that the FontCast was the, and I quote, skid marks on the underpants of Tasmanian politics.
That's quite funny, actually.
It was so delicious. I loved all. It was just
Certainly
amazing.
a turn of phrase, wasn't it? That,
It certainly was.
Are they used to digital disruption yet, do you reckon?
Don't know.
well,
Anyhow,
they've got their own podcast now, the Tassie
have.
Cast.
Oh, fixed. All fixed. There you go.
there
Problem
it is.
done.
Who could forget the two turkeys, John Tucker and Lara Alexander, whose defection to the crossbench was exclusively revealed right here on the FontCast in an emergency break glass pod.
Now, that was an interesting morning because I remember we heard it was definitely one and then probably two and then it all went from there. No, that was credit where it's due. I mean, I roll my eyes at you guys taking credit, but that was one. You guys were right at the forefront of that. That was an extraordinary day.
It was. The ongoing stadium saga, and Brad, you being the first to report Albo would put federal dollars into it.
Yeah.
After we all said he wouldn't.
That's right. You know what they say about political pundits. You're always right even when you're wrong.
Well, that certainly applies to you. More recently, we correctly predicted the 2025 state election results.
Eventually, yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And the final...
Labor's still hanging on to that first podcast because they would have all had nicer offices, water views, if it had have stopped there,
Yeah. And we were pretty far in front with this one, and the more recent final Ledge Coast Stadium vote.
Yeah, no disputing that.
No.
Spot on.
No, we were well in front on that one. And through it all, Brad's incisive commentary about Tasmanian politics, saying the things others feared to say.
Bit of help from you and AJ and a few others along the way, though.
Killer,
Fair to say.
yeah.
Killer,
Plenty,
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Yep, and my personal favourite,
Yes.
the Premier's policy pinata.
Which premier was that?
That was Peter Gutwin when he got a committee of people to come up with a whole range of ideas, and then Brad and Alan got on air and he starts talking about this pinata, this little donkey, and these kids whacking it with a stick, and then we
policy ideas falling out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right,
where we
falling
found
out
a
of
bit
its
of Mexican hat
backside,
dance
and
to
we
go.
put the Mexican hat music on. And next thing I know is I've got the Premier on the phone telling me I can't run a business, and there it was.
That's a bit rough.
Yeah, it was. But anyhow, that's
obviously you can't run a business.
no,
That's
that's clear. Anyhow, well, today we've got the biggest story of them all
Well, certainly the biggest story of...
for the history of FontCast.
That's it.
For sure. An exclusive that is sure to get the Polytas tongues wagging and wake the traditional media from their pre-Christmas slumber. After 7 years and 155 episodes...
including this one.
Including this one. Imagine listening to them end to end. That'd be great.
Probably can. If you can.
Yeah, well, you probably
feed.
could.
That's what they do to people in Russian prisons, I think.
Anyway, you need to do it up again, Becher.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
After 7 years and 155 episodes, this is the final FontCast.
Sorry, what?
That's it. You heard it. This is the
First
final
here.
FontCast. You heard it first on FontCast. This is the final FontCast.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I'm calling it a day. I'm retiring from the public relations business, looking at...
After how long?
After 23 years running this business in its various guises, it's time for me to move on to other things. I'm giving up the day job. I'll still be busy. I've still got the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I've still got some other business interests. Mary and I...
You're still doing the plastics thing, people, don't worry, with those overseas junkets.
Yep, that's exactly right. The plastics industry's still safe.
Thank you for saving us.
Yes, thank you.
I
My
appreciate
pleasure. One fish box at a time. But no, Mary and I are both finishing the day job, as it were, and we're looking forward to pursuing some other interests, which should be really exciting. So I finish tomorrow afternoon.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Beach.
That's huge.
Big
Huge.
decision. Was it
It
a
is
long time in the making, or it's an exclusive on the FontCast, but there might have been a little bit of chatter out there in the last couple of weeks, and people asking what's going on. Is there more to it? Or?
No, there's not. There's not more to it. I think some people saw when I took on the role of the TCCI chairmanship.
Bit of a clue there, wasn't there?
Bit of a clue. And they said to me quite rightly, how can you be chair and do what you do professionally all the time, just in terms of the amount of time it involves? So I think that was a clue to some. And I've been working towards this. I've been working towards this all my professional life, I've got to say. But it has been in chain for some time. But
So is it a proper retirement? So you're gonna drive your car and enjoy the sun when it's out?
Well, I suppose I liken it this way. Every day I get up, I have a shower, I take the dog for a walk, I iron a shirt, I walk to work. Well, I'm not going to do the walk to work bit anymore.
Still going to shower though.
Yeah, happily, and I know I'm going to walk.
Another exclusive.
Yeah, another
Get some
exclusive.
polo shirts. You don't need to iron them.
And I'm still going to walk the dog. So, look, I've got plenty of things to do. I'm just not doing the day job.
And you two are okay? Like, I didn't come in this morning, there was a big bit of Perspex glass between us recording this podcast. No. You guys still seem to be on speaking terms, so there hasn't,
Yeah, I think we're on more than speaking terms. It's well understood. This is what happens in business. Brad and I have had 7 years together. We've enjoyed it. We're still good mates, very good mates, in fact, and I don't see that changing.
You're ambitious for him?
Oh, how?
My ambition for Brad is, personally speaking, I think he has a lot to offer the field in which he works, and I actually believe that he should be focusing his energy at a national level. That's my personal view. There you go.
It's the kiss of death there,
What's it mean for you, Brad? I mean, sorry to be the journalist in the room, but I guess, that's my role here. When it sort of started to come out, I think the bit that people were surprised about, maybe not so much that you're going to move on to other things, that Font probably wouldn't continue. And I guess because, whether you're a fan or a critic of what you guys do, you've set up a very impressive business with a very long list of clients. Why not keep it going? Is that a fair question?
It's a fair question. The answer is, I think, nothing's forever in life, in business,
Permanency
in
is an
work.
illusion, always.
Exactly. I have a general philosophy. It's always best to go out on top if you can.
Yep.
I left the state government after 2018, after 8 years total, including Will. And I think in this case as well, with Beach moving on, Dan and I have decided, this is an opportunity to have a look at where things are at, and we'll all go our separate ways. We'll take the Font, I'm sure it's on screen there, Sam, but we'll take the Font logo, we'll retire it up on the wall like a footy Guernsey, and never to be used again by anybody else, just sort of to be a mark of history, so to speak.
Yep.
And, we'll go on and do other things. From my personal perspective, and sorry to disappoint my many friends and frenemies, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So
What's going to be on your plate, Brad?
So, glad you asked. So, I'm going to go and run EMRS. Obviously, Mary will no longer be there, so I'll go and do that. But I also plan to expand EMRS's offering to include PR and GR and campaigning and whatever else takes my fancy, so to speak. So I'm still going to be running the same tricks out of a different letterhead in many respects. I will still be around. I'll still be doing things. I'm still going to be, annoying people with my various views and opinions. And I do suspect, Alex, there's still going to be a podcast of some description.
Well, this is why I turned up this morning. I want to know what's going to happen.
And it won't be called the FontCast.
No.
I mean, again, retiring on top, and there's.
Do I get to pick the new name?
Yeah, we can.
Or
call
am
it
I'm
called
being
the AJ
presumptuous.
Cast. Well, no,
I'm being
look,
presumptuous here.
We'll see. I mean, I think we'll have a good think about it over Christmas, and
Feedback welcome.
feedback welcome. Ideas and suggestions.
I know what suggestion one will be.
What's that? The AJ Cast.
No, not the AJ Cast. That 51% of the population are women, so maybe there should be a woman on the show from time to time. A chance to refresh, though, and have a think.
We'll have a refresh and see where we come back. We're not going to go anywhere. I think there's an important niche that the FontCast has filled.
Yes.
But again, the FontCast has had 7 years. I mean, and for the TV show, that's 7 seasons. That's we're lucky that we still haven't got down to.
Yeah.
And I've got way
dregs.
more feedback on it in the last 3 or 4 months than I ever have. I think people. I don't know whether the numbers reflect that, Sam, but it feels like we've
numbers are good.
We've got a modest but very dedicated listenership.
Oh, we do. There's no doubt about that.
Across the 2 platforms, YouTube and the audio podcast, I would say it's better than modest. Like it's pretty it's pretty good for what it is and for the amount of budget.
Fairly niche, isn't it?
It's not like you're pushing it
amount
out.
of budget?
You're
We
not
pay you a
marketing all
fortune.
the time.
Come on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's me, but that's it. I'm not a marketer. But you're not pumping lots of money into promoting it. It's
It is what it is.
just going out to
to be fair, it was originally the brainchild of our first business partner, Brad Nowland. It was his idea.
Yep.
It was a bit of a lark, I think, if I'm not sort of incorrectly quoting him.
Yep.
And it's become a thing.
Yeah.
But all good things come to an end. That being said, there is a space to be filled. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
With respect to the broadcast, I don't think that's quite in the space that people are looking for.
So this was always coming. Like I didn't prompt all of this by.
Oh, because the other bombshell was that this was going to be Sam's final
last
episode anyway.
as
So
well.
Beach has stolen your thunder there, hasn't he?
No, not. I'm not. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's fine. But hopefully, retirement's a big thing. Like
well,
you've been thinking about that for a while. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, it's a convergence of a number of things. Here we sit. What a wonderful place to be. FontCast is a fantastic thing. It has been a wonderful thing in terms of the debate here in Tasmania about politics. It's been a great thing to participate in.
Well, it was a thing before podcasts were a thing.
Yeah.
It really was at the experimental edge of podcasts in a sense.
Now Brad thinks he's the Bill Simmons of Tasmania. Anyway,
right.
Sam, thank you because you put in all the hard work, and when we go off and do other things, you make sure it gets to air in a very timely way.
Sometimes.
Brad, good luck to you. I look forward
Thanks,
to
Alex.
whatever our next chapter. And Beach,
Yep.
I hope the next chapter of your life is fabulous, because if the events of the last few days have taught us anything, its life is very, very precious, and it's something that we should never take for granted. So I hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you very much. Yes, I hope to too. I hope to whatever podcast Brad comes up with.
He's a peach, is he?
Yeah,
He's
I hope to return at some level.
We'll
but
consider
anyway.
him as a guest, maybe, Brad. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Let's enough of that. Let's have a look at our this episode.
Our
last ever episode, and what we've got. We'll boldly venture outside our normal wheelhouse and have a look at the appalling Bondi terrorist attack, and in particular, are the proposed gun law changes an appropriate response? We'll have a quick look at the final sitting of the Legislative Council last week, and then, as it is the final FontCast, not just now but forever, but also for this year, we'll make some equally bold predictions about Tasmanian politics in 2026.
We can really go for it with that.
Yeah,
I want to do a count on that one.
And another thing, while I'm here, anyhow, Brad, Bondi.
Yeah, so we can't, I don't think, do this episode without reflecting on the events earlier in the week. The terrible events. They weren't a tragedy. They were a massacre. It was tragedies happened by accident. It happened on purpose. It was. I think it'd be fair to say something that most people will remember. Most Australians will probably remember where they were and what they were doing when they first heard about it, like I did with September 11, and I suspect many Tasmanians did with Port Arthur. It's one of those events. I will say, though, unfortunately I wasn't very surprised at a personal level when it happened. I think it's been pretty clear over the last 2 years there's been a strongly rising tide of anti-Semitism in this country. It's been anyone that's chosen to open their eyes could see that. So, sometimes words do turn into action, and that's what has clearly happened in this case. I don't want to get too political, but so disregard everything before the word. But I do think that the federal government has perhaps naively, at best or worst, let the nation down over the past couple of years on this matter.
Naively.
Well, I don't think anyone's done anything on purpose, Sam. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, no one wants what happened on Sunday to happen. I don't think that's been done on purpose.
Fair.
But I do think that some of their actions that they have undertaken in relation to various incidents, protests, decisions they've taken at a national level with regards to the state of Palestine, all those things put together, I do think have sort of drawn towards this point inevitably. I just don't think it's avoidable. I mean, I don't have the eloquence of Josh Frydenberg, who he spoke obviously very passionately yesterday about this matter. And
one of the few that's actually said what needed to be said.
He spoke passionately about it, again on 7:30 last night, if people didn't see it. You don't have to agree with everything he said, but there's no doubt that what he said was heartfelt and reflects a very strong view among a large section of the community. Now, I want to ask you, Beach, particularly about the immediate response from the Prime Minister in relation to guns, because I know you were around at Port Arthur and that parallel's been drawn. My observation on that would just be, as Graham Richardson said, the Labor great who passed away a couple of weeks ago, the mob will always work you out. Yeah. But you can only do things for so long in a political sense before the mob will work you out. And my sense on what's happened since this tragedy on Sunday is that people have looked at the Prime Minister, and I think he's fundamentally a good person, but they've looked at him and said, mate, no, you haven't done us right on this. And despite him trying to make the argument, they're just not believing it at the moment. And I do think he's got to change direction. Hope he's changing direction. I think he is changing direction. He's a very acute politician. He listens to what people are saying. And I just hope that, action is taken so that this doesn't happen again as best we're able.
But by change direction?
In terms of the approach to anti-Semitism, I mean, it's even simple things,
anti-Semitism or fundamentalism, like
anti-Semitism,
religious
anti-Semitism. People not being able to say that,
terrorism.
senior Labor members of the government not being able to say anti-Semitism without putting Islamophobia in the same sentence out of sort of apropos of nothing. They're the sorts of things which, in my mind, people are seeing through, and that people are saying you need to get your act together. But Beach, I'm interested in your reflections.
Well, I have taken some time to reflect on it, it's not an enjoyable thing in any aspect. But I think the move over guns was, in my view, too quick.
Less than 24 hours.
Yeah, less than 24 hours. I have no doubt guns are part of it, right? And I have no doubt that that's part of the debate. The three of us, and probably you as well, Sam, have all worked in crises as a professional from a communications point of view. And sometimes people will say, what about this and what about this? And you go, well, that's for tomorrow or that's for next week. There's a time and a place for everything during this. But I think your commentary, Brad, around the community sort of sensing that the PM's a bit off beam with this one, I think is spot on. That's my sense of it. I think Josh Frydenberg yesterday caught the moment and caught the emotion. And then we start seeing reports pointing out that the PM hasn't been to Bondi, these kind of things. You're right about Albo, though. He is a good man. And I'm sure he will see where the community are coming from on this one and temper his response with that. I mean, he's done that. He's been a successful politician for many years for a reason. And I think, not to get into too many details because I don't want to immortalise what happened at Port Arthur for a second. That was a man who was depressed in some weird form of sort of revenge and wanted notoriety. This was premeditated slaughter, right? That's what it was. And it was horrific to watch. And I'm sure Port Arthur would have been. But this is a very different thing. This has religious undertones. This is two people choosing to exterminate people of another religion, and it's a very distressing and disturbing development in our community, in any community, and it's wrong. And our leaders need to show leadership, take the time to look at this event and reflect on how they, as leaders, show the rest of the community how to respond on these matters. That's clear.
I wanted to come back to a couple of the things that you've said, Brad, but I didn't want my first sort of contribution to be, asking you questions. I just want to say how sad I am. One of the most horrific things I've ever seen, and when I say seen, we all saw it. Unlike these other tragedies that have happened, we've seen it in an age where we saw things that we would never want to see, and my heart goes out to the Jewish community. It's so sad on so many levels. Obviously, that the senseless loss of life, but also the thousands of other people who were there, including young people, who will now have to, whether they like it or not, associate what should have been a joyous time of the year with the worst memories you could ever think about. And that breaks my heart when I think about that burden they're going to live with. I can't imagine what it must be like for the Jewish community to know that, as you said, they were attacked for being who they were. It's not something that I've ever had to contemplate. It's not something I'll probably ever have to contemplate, being an agnostic person. It is heartbreaking. And I think two things can be true at once. I think Brad's right in the sense that this is a big wake-up call for the Prime Minister in terms of how he's dealt with this issue. I think you've only got to listen to the leaders in the Jewish community to hear how angry and disappointed they are. But I also think that some of the criticism has been grossly unfair. And I think lines have been drawn that I don't see the link. And I wanted to ask Brad, and we can get into a bit more of a discussion, but you talk about the Prime Minister's decision around recognising Palestine. That part of it, I don't see the link to what happened on Sunday. These people were on ASIO's watch list or the younger one was from 2019. These are radicalised people. These are people that have obviously held extremist views for a long time. Draw the link for me there.
Well, again, it's a pattern of events that cumulatively built up, I think, an attitude in these deranged minds, and I fear others, that it's okay to think the Jews are bad people, for want of a better term. Straight after the October 7 attacks 2 years ago, the first response of the federal government was, Israel must be really careful with their response, rather than a strong condemnation without any equivocation about what had happened. We saw what happened on the steps of the Opera House a few days later. No response in any substantive term. We saw the march across the bridge for Palestine, and senior Labor figures photographed in front of a poster of the Ayatollah of Iran, and
carrying flags
and no sort of
Hezbollah.
I mean, I remember what
Yeah.
happened when Tony Abbott, and I'm not trying to draw a link here, but Tony Abbott is photographed in front of the Gillard sign about her being a witch.
Yes.
And was rightly condemned and howled down, and I think maybe even apologised for that. But the same hasn't happened in this instance.
And I think you make really strong points as to why such a large number of people in the Jewish community feel very, very let down by the Prime Minister's actions, and they are the people that are very sensitive to all of those policy decisions and are seeing them through a really considered lens. What I have trouble with is drawing the link to the atrocities on Sunday, because as you just said, these are deranged people who I don't think take their cues from the political debate
not directly, but
debate
as
in
I say,
Australia.
I think what it just all these things put together, in my view, I'm not a member of the Jewish community. I don't even really know any Jewish people. But in my dispassionate view from a distance, I think it has fermented an environment where some people have sadly thought that it's okay to do what they have done. You can argue about whether this is more important than that and whether that had any impact or not. I just think cumulatively over the period of the 2 years, there's been warnings and warnings and warnings that this is going to happen. The environment is getting worse. I mean, as I say, Frydenberg on 7:30 last night was compelling when he talked about and answered the last question about the dangers that faced his own kids in the street, and he had all that sort of stuff. That has all come about because of the environment that has been created. It has not been dealt with.
What did you make of the debate at the end when Sarah Ferguson asked the question in how do we see this in the frame of him being someone who may make a political return? He got very, very upset at that question. How did you see that?
Well, I thought rightly so. I mean, it's clear, whatever you think of him, and I don't know him very well, but he was speaking from the heart about his personal experiences and the experiences of his community. And, fair enough, ask the question, but, don't be surprised when you get the answer, in my view.
I mean, it's clear to me that he feels very, very passionate about this, and whether no matter what his future plans are, you can't question his authenticity on this. And if it starts affecting your family's safety, then I don't think anyone can. The only thing I will say to justify Sarah Ferguson asking the question is he's made this about Anthony Albanese. He hasn't said we as a country or the government, or even, he hasn't called out the New South Wales government. He has made this specifically about Anthony Albanese. And I think it's a big call to draw that line between what happened on Sunday and putting it at the Prime Minister's feet like he has.
Look, I don't agree with Josh when he said that the Prime Minister had blood on his hands or was that. I don't go to that point. That's his view. But he's the Prime Minister. You're the Prime. You're in charge. You take the good and the bad. When things go wrong, you take the blame. When things go well, you take the credit. And you can't be the leader of the government and then say, I just work here. I think absolutely. At the end of the day, accountability for, in my view, the environment that's been created does start at the top and stops at the top.
No, I agree.
Do you mind if I share a bit of experience? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree, and the Prime Minister has been on the defensive in the last few days, and I think from a communications point of view, when he is under pressure, he can tend to get a bit defensive, and I think he's got a very, very tough task to try and now reset this issue from his point of view, and be seen to be more decisive than he has been. I think in terms of communication, Chris Minns has been a lot more impressive. So it's going to be a very interesting thing. I've got a couple of more things to say, but sure, Sam, go.
So I've spent a lot of time in Western Sydney. I worked for 2GB. I covered Cronulla riots as they were happening from...
So this is 2005?
This was 2008 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
No, we would have known, 2007, 6, something like that year, right? And there has been this, this extreme kind of hatred building in these parts of Western Sydney that's been there, and it's pushed mostly by preachers, by people in their churches. I worked with SBS then for 10 years afterwards, and I've covered so many protests in Lakemba and Ashfield and other places in Western Sydney. This sentiment has always been there, but I think these protests that we've seen that have been encouraged by politicians, you see politicians wearing, your Palestinian paraphernalia, and you've got these things are being, and the ABC has been encouraged. There's so much. I think they were rightly accused of covering it with a particular bias. That's emboldened, in my opinion, that has emboldened this element that's always been there, and I think. Until that stops, we might see more and more things like this. I don't think it's a surprise.
I've got to say something about that, Sam. I mean, look, the majority of people who have protested about Palestine do it from a place of pacifism. They
totally
understand. They do it with no hate in their heart at all. They do it to draw attention to an injustice they see on the other side of the world and the death of innocent people. Now, you're right as far as others with hate in their heart use those protests as a camouflage for something more sinister. And Michelle Grattan made this point, it's not my point. You've got to look at those protests as a spectrum, from the people I just described who go along with love in their heart, who can't witness the scenes on the TV without doing something about it, to people at the other far end of the spectrum who have hate and who are clearly anti-Semitic, who have hate in their heart. In the middle, there are others who are willing to fly the flags of hate and sing the chants of hate. They may never act on that. They may never be violent themselves. But Michelle Grattan made the point that they send a signal to others that it's okay. So it's a spectrum. And my final point is I think we do have to be very careful when we draw a line between Sunday and protests, because most of the people at those protests do not have a hateful bone in their body.
But so people are criticised for turning up at protests where there's Nazis and going on the protest with the Nazis. But at the same time, if you turn up at a protest and there's people carrying terrorism paraphernalia, go home. That's not a good protest. That's not a place you want to be. That would be, that's how I see it.
All right.
And I've said that to John Ruddock, a friend of mine who did that march across the bridge.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. All right. Well, I think we've explained the issues.
That's a fair point. What do you do when you're faced with someone who you clearly don't agree with, and you're standing in the same place for two very different reasons? What do you do there?
I think the point that Sam's getting at, and I certainly understand it, is there are a lot of, and AJ, you're probably one of them, very well-intentioned people regarding Palestine, right? In terms of protests and those kind of things.
I've never been to a Palestine protest, but I have respect for people who do.
There's a strong element in the community of great sympathy towards that issue. I think what we're getting at here is it's clear that some elements of the community have been hijacking that very good nature and using it for other devices. And I think that's what's apparent. And that's where the concerns have been raised, where people are saying you're being duped into supporting something that's being used by others as a tool to make something else happen, and that's what's occurred. The interesting thing is, I never thought we'd get to this issue on FontCast, I've got to say. And
just on guns, I think it is. I think it's a part, not a big part of this issue. And maybe on guns, it's a really specific question. How does this person have guns if his son was flagged by our intelligence agency? I think it's not a broad reform. It is like, we've got to be able to nail down on these specifics. And I think questions around the intelligence has to be asked.
Yeah. How does this happen?
And to me, that was a more obvious response, I think, from the Prime Minister, if he had have said, well, maybe we need to put more resources into addressing anti-Semitism and radicalisation, because it seems like our counter-terrorism forces are stretched thin because there's threats from all sides. Maybe it's time to refocus. Obviously it was.
Well, it's a turning point in terms of the debate in the community. There's no doubt in my mind's eye about what this has done. Anyhow, unless we have anything else...
I think we've got to get out of this rabbit hole before we get stuck in here forever.
Right. All right. So we, I think from all of us, we are very upset, and our thoughts do go to all those people who have been affected. You can't watch that footage without being moved.
And anyhow, I just want to mention, AJ, you touched on it. The changing nature of journalism over the last 7 years, of this pod in particular. I didn't learn about this from the ABC. They were still showing me the Antiques Roadshow while my kids were sending me videos from X as it was happening. Yeah. No. Citizen journalism.
And the psychological ramifications of seeing those things. I mean, extraordinary that it happened at the same time as we banned social media for under 16s. I mean, I'm not a fan of that policy, but I tell you what, I'm glad that on Sunday night less people under 16 would have seen those images than they otherwise would.
They then saw them later on the news when the ABC caught up.
Yeah. and the other media outlets.
Vestigial media.
Sorry, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, I know. Anyhow, all right, let's move on to something a bit lighter. The final,
Literally anything in the world.
Yes.
The Legco.
Yes.
Whatever we got.
The final week of state parliament.
Yeah. Lighter, but not less dour, maybe.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Legco and
Yeah, so
roundabout
just quickly, I
politics.
know I don't want to dwell on this because people want to hear about our predictions for next year, but
Yep.
our last sitting week of the Legco last week, I think 3 things of note happened. Firstly, they passed the budget.
Yep.
People mightn't have noticed that, but they passed it, so thank goodness for that. No election. Eric Betts is happy. Guy Barnett's is
The wheels of
angry.
The wheels of Tasmania will continue to turn. Brad.
They passed just the first home builders boost to $30,000, not without some pushback and another mention in the Hansard. Thanks, Ruth Forrest of the FontCast. So
Yep.
there you go.
Yep.
So that got through eventually, and I think perhaps more significantly, they didn't pass the greyhound ban. Now, and I think there's a few reasons for that, and I know you've got a theory which is probably the best theory, but
Yep.
I have also a reason why I think they didn't pass it. I mean, I think it's a good policy. I think its time has come as a policy. I think, it's very widely supported in the community. We know that from our good friends at EMRS. But I do think that the government has misstepped in their messaging on this policy, and it is a broken promise. It is a broken letter from the Premier saying, I won't do this, and he's done it. And I think that their messaging and perhaps even their genuine concern for the participants in the industry has not been there. It's been all about the animals, and pretty much too bad, so sad for those people that work in the industry. And
Yep.
and you know, the Legco did grab onto that. Again, Ruth Forrest did, I think, rightly point out that fact that these people were being left behind and not dealt with at least a modicum of respect on the way through. And I think when the Legco comes back next year, the government will well serve to have modified their messaging and approach in that regard.
Yeah, well, I heard Meg Webb talk to the greyhound industry people in the committee, and I know that Meg Webb doesn't always get the greatest hearing on this podcast, but I thought what she said was very true. She had the courage to look them in the eye and say, I think your industry should end, I don't support it. But she said the process stinks, basically, I'm paraphrasing now. And she made the point that the way they'd been treated in terms of the mixed messages from the government and the time frame and the lack of clarity around exactly why they're doing it. So when even Meg Webb has some empathy for the industry, for the way they've been treated, I think the government does have a problem there. And Dean Winter's done a very good job at exposing the contradictions along the way. And also, it doesn't seem like the minister's very comfortable with the position. The other day,
I think that she would tell you that if you asked her.
yeah, no, 100%. You could tell that in the way that she delivered that. I think it was a second reading speech. She had a lot of trouble saying the words, the end of the greyhound industry. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. And the upper house has obviously given it some sort of reprieve. Obviously, Labor's interpreting that as a win for them. The government says, don't interpret it that way. But
and I think the ban will still pass, but badly handled.
Yeah, no, fundamentally it'll still pass, but all this was, in my view, was the Legislative Council squaring off at government. That's all it was. The Legislative
Hang on,
Council...
for those who are not aware, Becher has a history with the Legislative Council going back to 1851.
Yes.
You understand how they tick. So what are you saying?
Well, I used to understand how they tick, but the Legislative Council is supposed to be a house of review. It's supposed to be a check and a balance on the excess of government. Okay, that's what it's there for. That's why traditionally it's been full of independence, and its role is to look at things, accept that these things may happen, but review them with a view of making them better, asking government to reconsider those kind of things. That's the role. So what we saw with the Legislative Council in passing an order for the stadium was the Legislative Council completely sidelined their role and rubber-stamped a pretty appalling bit of, you couldn't even call it
what you really think.
legislation, right, when it should have taken the time to act as a house of review and review it properly.
Right, okay.
Right, that's what I'm getting at, and I'm not getting into the whys and what for alls or whether or not it should have been passed, but what I am saying is it should have done its job a hell of a lot better. It didn't. So what it's gone and done is gone, you got that one through on us. We had no choice. We felt we were bullied into it. We had to do it. So on this one, we'll knock it back and just show you that we can still do it with a flex.
So let's go sort of, we're in charge, guys.
Yeah, we're in charge and we're going to do this. So you can't have it all your way all the time. That was the way I read it.
I think there's something to that, and the fact that the first home builders boost struggled to get through.
It only just made it through.
Pretty uncontroversial, really.
Yes, and not well put by government, but yes, that only just got its way through. Okay, let's round out FontCast with the Tasmanian politics predictions and prognostic.
I told you to check it first.
I know
Prognostications.
Prognostications.
It's meant to be alliteration.
I know. For 2026, let's do the Jeremy Rockcliffe and Liberals first. AJ, what do you reckon?
Well, will it be a stadium honeymoon or a stadium hangover?
Oh.
I'm expecting a little bit of both, actually. Yeah. It's good for business confidence, and I think that Premier's got a spring in his step at the moment because he knows that he's had a significant win and that it's energised parts of the business sector and whatnot.
Sorry to interrupt you, but just to by the by there, I've been to some Christmas functions in Hobart where the Premier has spoken about the stadium to spontaneous applause and cheers and holding him aloft and carrying him around the room. We're at a Christmas function in Launceston earlier the week where the Premier spoke about the stadium, and fair to say you could have heard a pin drop after he finished. Anyway.
All right. Still mixed.
It's still that northern resentment.
Yes.
Well, that's something to watch. So that's the business confidence that would be the honeymoon side of it. The hangover side is, often after a big night, you make promises to people about, making plans the next day, and they seem a little bit trickier on Sunday morning than they did at 11:30 on Saturday night. And I think building it's going to be a big part of it. Now, how much progress they even make in 2026 remains to be seen, but the people who have celebrated the glorious vote on the stadium are going to be equally impatient, I think, in terms of the stadium itself. They'll want to see it built because there are timelines attached to the team. That's going to be a big problem. And obviously the other jumbo-sized elephant in the room is the budget, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. It'll be interesting to see, the internal politics of the Liberal Party, whether any of that plays out this year. I understand there's a little bit of, I got no idea, but I hear there's a few power moves behind the scenes and that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see whether any of that bubbles to the surface or whether they remain as disciplined as they have been, because credit where it's due, they've kept a lot of those disagreements from the public gaze. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, well, don't disagree with any of that. As I said last pod, 2025, a year of absolute triumph for the Premier, for Jeremy Rockcliffe. Obviously, was always going to be a good year when he started it by doing the FontCast interview, but it has been
started well,
ended well. Went well pretty much the whole year. I think it'd be fair to say. Returned with, if not an increase, literally not an increased majority at the election, but certainly an increased, if I could paraphrase the English cricket team, an increased moral authority in the parliament. Same numbers, but clearly much stronger on the floor.
And an invigorated team. Who would have thought?
Very true.
Someone had said to Rockcliffe at the start of the year, he can end up with Bridget Archer and Gavin Pearce and Marcus Vermey. Probably would have taken that, wouldn't he?
A few out of retirement, that's right. So, I mean, it's been a great year for him and a very, very good year for the government in that respect. Look, to me, and I'm not suggesting this is going to happen anytime soon, but the real question about the future of the government is, how long is Jeremy going to be there and what happens when he leaves? Now, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, just to be clear. But, everyone's human and you never know. And I think the stadium's now, it's not built, but it's through. It will happen. And that's a pretty big legacy for any politician to be considering while they're sitting on the beach at Christmas, New Year. if he was to go, and you talked about power plays and backroom deals, AJ, and if the Premier was to go anytime in the next 12 months, I think we would have Premier Eric Abetz. He's clearly the next in line at this stage. He's jumped Guy and Michael and Felix. I don't think ain't quite there yet. That would be the general sense, and that obviously would offer a completely different political environment to what we have now. That being said, if the Premier goes longer than 2026, which I think he will, then I think eyes will increasingly turn to Bridget Archer and whether she is going to be able to be a contender to do the job after Jeremy. I think that sort of longer term stuff.
No, that's what I was going to say. I don't think Jeremy Rockcliffe hands over unless he knows Bridget Archer is the next Premier. Maybe,
but we will see.
Well, I think the events of whatever month it all went to hell. The no confidence motion proves that. I think if Bridget Archer was an option then, Jeremy Rockcliffe might have fallen on his sword.
Possibly. Who knows?
Can we get a response from Erica Betts?
Oh, no. Too sombre a morning to do Eric.
But
that
I mean,
would not be appropriate.
That presupposes that the Premier decides when he wants to go and in terms in which he goes, and life, who knows what will happen.
True.
So I don't think he's going anywhere, but I just think that's something to look for medium to longer term. Next year, clearly the big issue is the budget. How can it all add up? It can't. It won't. It is going to be a very, very difficult budget. Difficult in the sense I don't think it's going to fix our problems. Yep. It's just going to create the government political problems.
Yeah.
You are going to have to pay more tax though with your business mate speech. I think the bigger question is, now that the stadium's done, what is the government all about? What is the government's purpose? What are they there for? For ministers to decipher the bullshit and rubbish that comes up from the bureaucracy telling them to do this and do that and regulate this and regulate that and close this down and tax this and tax that, because that's what's happening at the moment. The government needs to have a purpose in the next year. Now, my understanding is that there's going to be a focus on economic growth. Great. Sounds good. But what? What specifically are we going to be doing to strengthen and grow the economy? We had the war on red tape 18 months ago. Remember that? The war on red tape? What's happening?
Well, if I was them, I'd go housing. I would just make housing your absolute number one issue. I think it ticks two boxes at the same time. It speaks to a good social issue and also speaks to an economic development issue. I would make housing my absolute priority.
How?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. And that's
but any government that can bring down prices, and I'm not talking about houses in particular. We're in a cost of living crisis. Everything's expensive. Anyone that can effectively or come up with a plan that would do that.
So what I'll be looking out for, I suppose,
huge advantage
in 2026 from the government will be a clear agenda, a post-stadium agenda, if you like, for the next couple of years. I mean, I think we'll get one. I hope it's a good one, but that's what we need. Otherwise, we are just going to drift. And what's the difference between a Liberal government and a Labor government when the bureaucracy's in charge?
Yeah, well, thank you for that, because that allows me to say a few words. I mean, my first observation of now is where to next. I think that's clear, and I think that's clear for the Premier that he's going to have to spend the Christmas break going, where to next? What are we going to do next? Because sitting around waiting for the stadium to be built, it's not going to be built anytime soon, right? There's obviously going to be issues with delivery. I mean, Blind Freddie could work that out. It's much like the Spirits, which allegedly arrive next year.
You're ahead of schedule.
Pardon? They're ahead of schedule. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, my briefing from the TT line isn't ahead of schedule. It's non-existent.
Still waiting for that one about the interstate
even
lawyers.
Now you're the chair.
Yeah, even now that I'm the chair, I still
you
get
should have one of those
crickets.
direct lines.
Don't they know who he is?
Oh, no, they've offered it. They just haven't come back with a date yet.
Isn't that what Graham Sturgis said
That's
at
exactly what
TT line? Don't you know who I am?
That's
You
it.
know who I am.
Sorry.
Anyhow.
Very good, Brad.
So,
Very
I
good.
mean, the reality is the delivery of the stadium is going to be a huge issue for the government. It's going to be a constant focus. And that's going to be a real challenge. The budget absolutely is top to bottom a complete mess, and it's only going to get worse. We've experienced it directly here. When you're in government and you make a promise to not get rid of frontline workers, what do? You have to kill all your outsourced services. So go and talk to the community sector about all the outsourced services that are getting killed at the moment. great services that deliver wonderful outcomes, but no, sorry, we've got to cut your funding because we can't cut any of our frontline workers. So they've created a rod for their own back. This is the challenge about a burgeoning public servants, burgeoning in numbers, right? And by employing more people that you can't remove, what do? You've just got to cut the external services, and it's appalling. And it's a real problem for them. They need to do something about it. They will need to do something about this mythical 2,300 jobs that they're going to right-size the public sector with, but still the public sector is increasing in numbers. Still the senior executive services are getting employed more and more. These are real challenges that the government's going to face. And so if they don't come up with something to address it, perhaps it is housing. And with housing, it's supply. That's how you fix housing. You just make sure there's increased supply, right? Perhaps that's it, but I don't know what it is.
Huntingfield's happening. I read it.
Is it? Oh, great.
First house sold. Only 7 years late.
7 years. There you go. That's as long as the FontCast has come and gone. Anyhow. All right. So, look, I think they've got a big job in front of them. I'm not going to... I've given up speculating on what Jeremy might or might not do as Premier. He does finish this year on top of his game. He is a Golden Font winner, and so
that is true.
In the pantheon of success, I'm sure.
It's a bit of a kiss of death, actually. When you look at
I think you mentioned the other night that he was proud to be the last ever Golden Font winner.
Well,
that's true.
Did he know something that we didn't know?
Done. I think it was after the rumour mill had started turning over.
Okay,
well, if the Premier of the state doesn't know, I mean.
Who does? Anyhow, right. Well, that's the Liberals. Let's have a quick look at Labor, if anybody remembers who they are.
Yeah, with apologies to the former Queen, Elizabeth II. Talk about an annus horribilis for Labor. Not just a wasted year, but a year where they actually went backwards. I mean, that's how bad it was. And not backwards 1 year, I think backwards 3 years. Look, I'm a Liberal, and I despair about them. So I can only imagine how Labor supporters feel. Not looking at you, Beach. Whether you're pro-stadium or anti-stadium, I don't think anyone can deny that their handling of the stadium, the small target blank cheque, we support it, turned into a political disaster for them. They are now nowhere. Like, as you said, nowhere. There was a function, I'm told, in Launceston last night, opening of a big new facility up at Bogues.
Yep.
Nowhere.
You sound a bit like Trump. Is that what you're getting at there?
Nowhere. Maybe the FontCast has more listeners than I think. And obviously, it does have thousands of listeners and viewers. But I'm starting to hear people tell me that Josh Willie is an empty vessel. Now, either what I said a few months ago is going round and round and coming back, or more likely, people are separately forming their own view about Mr. Willie in that regard, which is a real problem for him and for the Labor Party moving forward. So, at the moment, the problem is we've got an opposition there so bad, the government may as well have 34 seats. They can do what they want, they can stuff up what they want, no one cares.
Yep.
Again, maybe to paraphrase Donald Trump, they can almost, walk down the street and do whatever they want, and they'd get away with it. So, just my free advice to Josh and team.
Free advice.
Again, same advice I've given for a while now. Revamp team, that's right. Maybe Mr. Rao will bring a bit of the Paul Lennon. He's only there very briefly before he left. But anyway.
Bit of mongrel?
Mongrel into that's what they need. That's what they need. First rule of opposition, decontaminate your brand. Second rule of opposition, tear the government down. Third rule of opposition, present a compelling alternative narrative. 11 years in, they haven't even done point one yet.
Yep.
Well, if the hallmark of Labor's year in 2025 was they were in too much of a hurry, which I think history shows that they were, no confidence motion obviously didn't go so well, then I think the hallmark or the big question of 2026 will be around patience. Josh Willie seems like he's playing the long game to me. Seems like he knows that they've got to reset. I'm not sure about decontaminate the brand, but he knows they've got to they've got a long, long, long road back, and it seems to me like he's sort of trying to take his time, reset. I think he knows that he's up against a formidable opponent in Jeremy Rockcliffe, who the public, a big portion of the public doesn't have a problem with. But the patience of his colleagues will be tested. How long are they willing to back him without seeing massive strides in the polls? Now, you get a couple of good polls, similar to the ones that obviously spurred Dean Winter on with the no confidence motion, then I think that'll be fine. But if there's still a big gap, then I think the questions Brad asked about, how much is this opposition leader cutting through will start to be asked. But I think Josh is trying to be patient, and I think it could work. I think it could work if you're not in a hurry and you let people get to know you and you focus on some fundamentals. It could work, but it's a risk because I think some people will be looking for a sugar hit much sooner than that.
All right. Well, I'm probably one of them because I thoroughly disagree.
Which bit?
This idea that it's going to be a long road back, right? And so therefore we should take it slowly and take it easily is complete madness, right? They need to be fighting for government today, tomorrow, every day. They're in opposition. Oppositions oppose. They should be out there opposing. What we've seen since Josh has become leader is a failure to launch. Currently, as far as I can see, they have gone to ground. And as far as I can work out, they're actually already on holiday. So what's the date today?
What is 17th? 18th.
We're recording this on Thursday for those.
Thursday the 18th.
So
it might be in your ears on a different day. But
the traffic's been very good. A lot of people on holiday.
Well, I'm just saying I'm seeing nothing. I saw Matt's appointment. Great work, Matt. Go well. Okay. In the paper a couple of days ago. That's it from Labor. They are on holiday. They have checked out. They've gone, Jeremy's won the stadium. We're the small target. We can't go anywhere near the stadium. Oh, thank God the stadium debate's over. Now we might be able to get some clear air on some other issues, which is the most stupid strategy that's been going on, perpetuated by Labor for quite a period of time. They need to get out there and fight for office and fight right now. They need to push and push and push and push and show that they're relevant.
Yeah, they do need to remember, Beach, and you're probably going to say this, but the government has 14 seats, 15 if you count David O'Byrne, out of 35. Labor might say, well, we're not going to have an election anytime soon. We're not going to bring one on. But the other lot might bring one on.
Yeah.
The Premier might bring an election on because of a crisis.
Yes.
Labor might be wedged into supporting a no-confidence motion brought by the Greens and independents, everything.
Yeah.
That could happen next year.
Exactly
I don't think it will.
So what are you saying they should get ready for? Like
an election?
No, it should be on election footing
from
day one.
What does that look like?
Well, you don't go on holiday on the 17th of December. That'd be a good start point, right? You make the most of the summer break because over the summer break, most of your colleagues in the government do go on holiday, so you've got an opportunity to push issues that you usually wouldn't get a run with during the more busier times of the year. And this idea that people within Labor are going to lose patience, well, I hope they are. That's all I can say, because they need to be losing patience now. They need to be fighting for this now. Jeremy's had a wonderful year, there's no denying that, but next year's another year and they need to be getting on with it, as far as I'm concerned. Thanks. Right, there you go. It wouldn't be a FontCast if Brad didn't talk over me. So,
keeping up
Josh a great tradition.
Josh really does a press conference on Christmas Day. He's calling for, something. Then we'll know he listens.
We know he listens, and I'll ring him up and congratulate him on doing it. Anyhow, let's have a little bit of a look at the Greens. AJ, what do you think?
Well, the Greens are in for an interesting year because I'm sure the golden font is a great example of that. Didn't get a vote, the Greens, but didn't have a bad year. Kept 5 seats, pretty good effort. I think they've been good performers in Parliament as they...
Cassie's done very well up in the Legco, if you ask me.
Yeah, and in the lower house, they tend to ask good questions. So their big challenge is, how do they get cut through versus the crossbench, who in 2025 were the new shiny things, especially Peter George and to a lesser extent Christy Johnston, but especially Peter George. I think they'll even up the ledger a bit more as 2026 goes on. They'll probably get more airtime and the crossbench will get slightly less. unless, of course, the crossbench are really, agitating and looking like they could, turn things on its head. So I think the Greens will have a strong year. It'll be interesting to see what happens with salmon and what happens with forestry in light of the federal reforms. So, yeah, they'll have plenty of issues to get their teeth into.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a good couple of years, in both in Parliament and in elections. Obviously, they increased their numbers in 24, and as you said, they retained them. Their challenge is they're no longer the protest party of choice, for want of a better term. There's now another protest party of the independents on their left flank, and so they've now been pushed more towards the mainstream by the emergence of the independents to the left of them, or adjacent to them, maybe not to the left.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Some of them are, no doubt. Some of them are, and so their challenge is getting cut.
I don't think is there any independent that's left of the Greens?
Have you met Craig Garland? Christy Johnson.
Craig
Johnson is a left-wing populist of the most.
Yeah, but not further left than the Greens.
Oh, anyway.
Maybe we could quibble.
But their challenge is getting cut through and getting airtime with this new force they got to fight with, and their repositioning. And I said it before, say it again. Peter George got more done in a week on salmon than they got done in 10 years, and that must be something that riles them every day, I suspect.
I think some would argue that was a rewriting of history, that the Greens did have a big role to play in that salmon change.
No.
Yeah, no.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
It was Peter George. He dictated what he wanted, and the government gave it to him.
Send your feedback to Alex at curatedcomms.com.au.
All right, good plug there. Let's just quickly bash through the independents and have a quick look at them. David O'Byrne.
Well, David O'Byrne, in my view, needs to be very, very careful that he doesn't become the 15th member of the Liberal Party's PLP, and that's what he's starting to look like, in my view.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's smart enough not to do that. I think we'll see him make some noise on some issues. I think he's done well on the stadium because it's helped his supporter base, but I think Brad's right. He's got to now pivot to remind people that that's not where his political home is. And he's not silly. He'll do that.
Well, he's been consistent on the stadium in a sea of inconsistency. Right, Christy Johnston.
Well, very effective left-wing populist, and I imagine that will continue.
Yep, I think she's had a very good year. Her vote, I mean, people were saying that she might not get re-elected, or she topped the poll. So
I've got to say, I was one of those. Didn't think she'd do well, but she's done very well. Right, Peter George.
Yeah, as noted, very second in the golden font for a reason.
Yep.
Yes, he's become a real lightning rod in Tasmanian politics. You either love him or loathe him. He's got a different style. I mean, he almost approaches politics like a journalist. I know he was a journalist, with his little updates, which, sometimes are refreshing. They give a nice little snapshot. It'll be interesting to see what issues he focuses on, because he's been a bit of a scattergun so far. I wonder whether he'll hone in on a few.
Well, he's flexed on one issue and hasn't done much on other issues other than
if I had a criticism of him, and I've made it before, I'll make it again. He claimed that he opposed the stadium with every fibre in his body, but then when he had the chance to do something about it,
did nothing.
Yep,
correct. Craig Garland.
Look, Craig's a great bloke, finding his way in politics.
Yep.
I think the incident with the smoke driving charge and the losing of a licence was unfortunate. I didn't think...
Didn't hurt him at the polls.
Well, and
does anyone who voted for him not know?
I think politicians,
smokes a little.
politicians make the laws. They're there to lead and lead by example. And I thought his response, too bad, so sad, whatever, was not really the sort of response we should expect from our leaders and those sorts of things. And I think that was, in my mind, a bit of a black mark against him. But look, no doubt he's going to keep on doing what he does.
Well, leadership's the issue of the moment. Carlo Di Falco.
Well, he's relevant again. If we're going to be talking about guns, I'm not sure whether that's going to be good or bad for him, but he'll certainly be a relevant player. It'll be interesting to see. He's a nice man. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see whether he is still a shooter and fisher by the end of the year, because obviously there's a bit of angst behind the scenes there. But watch this space. I don't know anything like it.
Yeah.
But people left the party, didn't they? Because they didn't
there's been
like where he ended up on the stadium.
I
and
think
whatnot.
there's been some internal.
It is hard. I mean, look,
Yes.
God,
Yes.
I went through it with the Jackie Lambie network. It's a very difficult thing when you've got MPs and then you've got a party platform and you've got not the big structure of the major parties or the Greens even, who have done it for a long, long time. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether he might end up as an independent, but that won't change his beliefs. But it might just the party structure might become too tricky. I don't know.
It doesn't strike me as that being the case. My reading of that organisation is they're pretty consistent, and that's why they've had some electoral success.
So you think that they'll find a way to move on?
I
think you might be right.
I do.
No, I think he's a one-termer. I think it was a very bad mistake he made to renege on his position, party's position, to be against the stadium at the election, particularly given if he had had a change of heart, it was going to pass anyway. His vote made no difference. Has enabled a view to be put in the community that he actually dogged them on the issue that arguably got him elected in that final vote on the protest vote in that seat. Most unwise and nice bloke, but I'll be very, very surprised if he's there after the next election.
All right, well, that's about time.
Did we mention George Razé?
Missed George off the list. He's been so quiet, happy and quiet.
The happy doctor.
There you go.
Yeah.
He hasn't done a lot, has he?
No, I think he's got to find a couple of subjects to get his teeth into. I'd like to see. I mean, he's obviously passionate about health, preventative health. That's fine, but let's see if he can find a couple of good ones.
He's making the most of it, I suppose. He's found himself in Parliament. What can I do? And there I go.
But again, he also runs the risk of only being a oncer unless he finds something and starts making a bit of noise. I think.
I agree. All right, well, that's about time.
One more from me, Beach, just perhaps to close out the FontCast loop, so to speak, conscious of time. So the other day, someone pointed out to me that a LinkedIn post, so LinkedIn's where you go to see what's really happening.
I've had to join LinkedIn.
Curated comms is everywhere on LinkedIn. So there was a post by a government minister, Madeleine Ogilvie, Minister for the Environment and various other things, where she stated, in a very LinkedIn way, quote, "Happy to share that I've started my Masters of Laws, brackets IP, it's intellectual property. At University of Melbourne, an outstanding university, of which I did attend many years ago.
Did you?
There's a backstory here. So Maddie commenced this course in the interregnum between when she thought she was going to lose a seat after the election and then when she ended up actually accidentally winning it at the end of the count. In that period, that course was started, and good on her. She wants to learn new skills to either enhance her current job or perhaps for a future post-politics career at some point. I just don't think it's particularly wise for a government minister to tell the world when they're paid full-time by the Tasmanian taxpayer to be a government minister that they're also studying a degree at the University of Melbourne. Perhaps it says something about the state of Tasmanian politics or the state of the Labor opposition that despite this being broadcast to the world, and a lot of people saw it, no one has questioned it.
I think Josh Willie now has a topic for his Christmas Day press conference speech.
Well,
Brad's just tied it up in a little bow for him and put it under the tree.
It's a final present. There you go.
But the irony is, it's a week until Christmas. He could do it today. He could do it tomorrow. He could do it the day after tomorrow. But no. Anyhow.
I mean, I think it is just,
It is emblematic.
I want to reminisce about the good old days, Beach, which are different to your good old days, but that never would have been allowed to pass unremarked a decade ago. And AJ, if you were still working for Greenie, you would have been all over like a rash, I'm sure.
Yeah, like a cheap suit. Indeed. All right. Well, that's time.
Was on your team then, but anyway,
that's true. Yeah, it would have been a strange release to put out.
Wind her up.
All right. I'm sad to say that's a time. So that's time. So thank yous to the legendary Sam Ikin for producing this show for 7 years. His sidekick in the early days, Brendan Lenihan. Brendan, thank you. He was doing this. He was fashionable before it became fashionable to do podcasts. and it's from the days when we were lucky to have, I think, 3 listeners.
Okay.
Which is Oliver, my brother, Scott, my best mate, and then when they convinced my mum to listen as well. Thank you, guys. To the giddy heights of today, with both a podcast and a YouTube channel and thousands of listeners in a state, a very small market such as Tas. That's pretty impressive, I've got to say. Look, Sam, and good luck with your health, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, sending love, Sam.
To the brainchild and original host of this show.
Was he a better host?
Well,
Different styles.
had some good gags. Our former business partner, Brad Nowland. To the indomitable David Killick for his contributions over the years. Killer, we miss you.
He's going very well. He's got a new lease on life, Killer. He's never been happier.
Haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
He's not getting beaten up for what he says in the FontCast, I suspect. To our various other guests and sometimes regulars over The View, to you, Alex, the yin to Brad's yang, the light to his dark, the vim and vigour to his dourness.
I like all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Alex. It's been
Oh, no, thank you. I
you
mean,
have brought.
it's, I've had a good time.
You've brought-
Let's see what happens next.
You've brought some very good questions over the years and some good commentary. To you, Brad.
Says in the run sheet here, brackets, say something nice.
things. Yeah, and so I have. So a man who's been my best mate for the last 7 years. A brilliant mind, a brilliant political mind housed in a Ted Baker suit. So to you, Brad, it's been an absolute privilege. I've loved working with you.
Oh, thanks, Peach. And
My pleasure.
I didn't even have to write that. So
No, there you go.
thank you. I appreciate those thoughts. And yeah, good luck.
Thank you. And finally, for me, the script's getting a bit blurry for some reason. As Brad likes to joke from time to time, I was I, an A-grade journalist. I covered political rounds for the Advocate newspaper and for Southern Cross TV. Hi, Southern Cross people. But I've got to say, none came close to the privilege and joy of being able to speak unfiltered, speak my mind, get on FontCast, have a say, have people listen to what I say, not abuse me for saying it, but come back with criticisms or other views, stop me in the street, do all those things. Absolutely wonderful. About Tasmanian politics, which was one of my first loves professionally, that's for sure. I studied it at uni and I've never stopped loving it ever since. Well, is this the end? No, we'll be back. That's a promise.
Yep, I've just got to work out what it is.
So until next time, whenever and whatever that is, carry on.